In the book of Numbers, yet another evil individual that we meet up with is a king by the name of Balak, who was the king over Moab. And the story goes, to sum it up very, very briefly, is that he hires Bilaam. Bilaam, of course, was an expert in sorcery and witchcraft, a necromancer. But in addition, he was one of the greatest prophets around. And Balak says, you know what, I'm going to hire this guy. He's going to go out and curse the Jewish people. That's the only way that I can vanquish these Jews. They're bothering me. They're disgusting me. I have to get them off the face of the planet. And Bilaam, of course, succumbs to temptations. And in the end, he tries to go out and curse the Jewish people. God, of course, intervenes behind the scenes, the divine puppeteer pulling the strings every step of the way. And of course, Bilaam, rather than cursing the Jews, gives a blessing, many blessings to the Jewish people. Where did Bilaam go wrong? In addition, the Midrashim inform us that the nations of the world complained to God. And they said, you know what, God, if we would have a leader like Moses, somebody who modeled, someone who emulated the ways of a Moses, you know what? We'd also be as great as the Jewish people. We'd also be on the right track. So God says, you know what? Okay, I'll answer that supplication. I'll give you a leader. I'll give you a prophet who's on the same level, who's on par with Moses. Can you believe it? Moses, the greatest Navi, the greatest prophet ever. And then Gentile nations of the world have their prayers answered, and God gives them Bilaam. I don't understand, God. You didn't give them somebody on par with Moses. Take a look at what's going on. Bilaam wants to curse the Jewish people. He exhibits a hatred and an animosity towards the Jewish people. He expresses a arrogance, a haughtiness. He wants money. What's going on here? He's not somebody who we can put in the same category we could ever group with the holy and the saintly and the pious Moses. So God, you didn't really answer what the Gentile nations of the world asked you for. So it seems that we're backed into a corner. If the nations asked for somebody just like a Moses, and God says, I'm giving you someone just like a Moses, then by definition, willy-nilly, we have to accept that initially Bilaam was in fact just as great as Moses. But he engendered his own downfall. He brought himself down. How? Because he displayed midos ros. Terrible negative character traits. He exhibited pejorative characteristics. And when somebody allows bad midos to take over, you could be the wisest person on the face of the planet. You could be the greatest prophet. You could indeed be on par with the holy Moses. But you know what? If you display those negative character traits, that can bring you down. That could tear apart your entire inner structure, your whole framework, and bring it to the lowest of the low. Because the higher you are, the harder you fall. In the end of the day, Moses is on top and Bilaam is on bottom. The difference? Who worked on himself? Who worked to develop, to polish, to hone their character traits, their various attributes? Moses, our sages tell us, was equal to all the Jewish people. What do you mean? You put Moses on one side of the scale and all the Jews on the other side of the scale? Explains the famed mystic, the Maharal from Prague. It means that all the positive character traits that were exhibited by every individual Jew, Moses consolidated them all into his essence, into his core being. Moses was equal to all the character traits because in fact he possessed them all. But it was only after years upon years of diligence, of hard work, incessant to working on himself to polish and rectify any wrongdoing, to hone his skills as not only a prophet, but as a Baal Midos Tovos, as somebody who wants nothing more than to exhibit positive character traits. Bilaam took a vehicle that had received the greatest levels of prophecy, literally on par with the holy Moses, but he abused it. He misused it because he destroyed his own positive character traits. And he lets a sense of haughtiness creep in, and that brought him down. When it comes to developing oneself, the first thing we have to do is build a pedestal, atop which the exquisite vase can rest. First thing is the pedestal of the Midas Tovos. That's why we don't even find specific commands to have great character traits on the page of the Torah. Explains Rav Chaim Vital, the disciple of the Arizal. The reason is because you can't even open up the words of the Torah. You can't even open up the pages of the Torah and listen about the 613 commandments until you first built the pedestal, that firm pedestal, the combination of working on refining and honing your midos tovos, your positive character traits, because only when you've built that pedestal can you then serve as a worthy receptacle for wisdom, for prophecy, whatever the case might be. Moses ends up on top, and Bilaam ends up on the bottom. Important lessons for us to take out of this contrast.